We are delighted to have Klaus here with us. And imagine this. You're 600 people in the organization. Agile was supposed to improve time to market. Everything looked great on the drawing board. And after the reorg was done, time to market was slower. Holy shit, what went wrong? Klaus is here to tell us. Because we've all been a part of reorganizations one way or the other, and we are familiar with the risks. And the risks, they can be quite significant. But wouldn't it be nice to avoid hellish outcomes like Leopold has described in his brief? Flight levels, the tool that he's here to present, does offer some insurance. Joining us from Vienna, researcher, author, computer scientist, and management consultant, Dr. Klaus Leopold is here to tell us how. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for this very nice introduction. I'm the last speaker today. I hope you still have a little bit of energy left. Yay! Perfect. Perfect. All right, so the idea is that I would like to tell you a little bit about flight levels. And the plan is, I get some echo, but that's okay. And the plan is that I will talk about one aspect of my book, Rethinking Agile, and I will explain flight levels with this one aspect. So what is the book about? In the end, the book is a story. A story about an organization, and this organization, they really had some troubles and problems. The thing is, this company, they wanted to improve their time to market. It took just like forever to deliver a project to the market. And if you're in a situation like this, there are multiple other problems, of course, popping up. They once were the leader in the market, but now they can barely, be proactive in the market. They are just like following up what others are doing. The other thing is, of course, they understand their business, so they see opportunities, but they are totally not able. Thank you. They are totally not able to exploit these opportunities because the opportunity is already gone once they set up their project. And of course, there is continuous change going on, and they were like, okay, when we are not able to adapt more quickly, we are just like history. This is the situation. So what do you do when you are in a situation like this these days? You become agile, right? Because with agility, you can address all these topics. Well, and that's what they did, kind of. A good agile transformation starts with a reorganization, right? So the very first thing what they did is they were like, we need to tear down these functional silos. Because functional silos are really bad, right? We need cross-functional teams because we want to eliminate dependencies. So they set up cross-functional teams. But they put it even one step further. They were like, we need to do product teams. We want to do cross-functional product teams. This means one team is only working on one product, and that's a cross-functional team. So you can eliminate all the dependencies, right? It's just like awesome. So product teams. And what else? The other thing was agile methods. Let's not be too dogmatic. The teams can choose their favorite agile method, and everything will be fine. This was kind of like the broad strokes of their transformation. How's the transformation done? Well, the very first thing was they set up a 1.5-year transformation project. Can you feel something? I mean, this is my kind of humor, right? So we want to become more agile, and the very first thing that pops up in our mind, let's set up a waterfall project, to become more agile. Well, it's maybe not the best thing to do, but we can talk about this a little bit later. But what was part of this project? So we are talking about 600 people, right? And they were like, okay, these 600 people, they need to receive some basic agile training. I'm pretty sure you heard about this. Agility is not so much about the practices, right? Agility is about the mindset. So it's a lot about the mindset. If just the people have the right mindset, then everything will be just great. So they set up this one-day agile mindset training, and the whole company was going through this agile mindset training, and then they could like check the box in the project plan, agile mindset established. Again, I'm not sure if this works like this, but we can talk about this a little bit later. What else? Then they, of course, carried out the reorganization. They threw up the people in the air. They led it in these cross-functional product teams. Agility was implemented team by team. This whole process was supported by 16 external coaches, and they also built up 11 internal coaches. So that's a good thing to do, right? Especially when you're running a consulting company, because then you can really earn quite a lot of money with this approach. Not so sure if it helps the organization best, but we'll talk about this right now. So, what's next? After roughly a year, they reported that 80% of the teams were fully transformed. I love this language. So 80% of the teams were fully transformed, and then they were like, okay, let's take a look how we are actually performing, right? Time to market of the projects, this was the thing, right? They wanted to bring time to market down, because currently time to market was increasing. So they were like, okay, we do all this agile magic, and then we bring time to market down. So this was the expected outcome, right? The actual outcome looked like this. And then they were like, what the fiddlestick is going on here? I mean, they invested hundreds of thousands of euros, and then it's getting worse. So they were like, that's not so good, actually. So they heard me speak at the conference where I was talking about local optimization might cause global sub-optimization and stuff like this. And they were like, meh, maybe that's something going on in our case as well. So they brought me in and they were like, okay, can you please help us and figure out what's going on here? Well, and that's what I tried to do. So I searched for the causes. The thing is, agility was a team thing there. So I just went to the teams, and we were talking about agile teams. The good thing is, we could see visualizations. So they were all having these boards, these fancy boards, where you could see all the tasks and stuff. And, well, I just started a conversation with them, right? So a typical board looked like this. That's a very simplified view, but you have something like a backlog. That's stuff we want to develop in the future. Then next, that's the stuff that's already committed. Then develop, that's what we're currently working on. And done is done. So this is kind of how these boards looked like. But there was one thing. Each and every board I saw, each and every visualization, had a part like this. External weighting. And no matter where I was, I always saw this external weighting. Maybe they had different names, blocker, whatever, but we always had this external weighting. And what was this external weighting? Well, they said, we can no longer continue to work on this work item here because there is another team where we have a dependency, and this team needs to do something, and then we can continue. Do you know situations like this? Yes. Dependencies? Yes? That's good. So let's think about this for a minute. Let's assume we run into a problem like this. This means there is somewhere in this organization another team, a team number 2, right? And when something is blocked in team number 1, this means this creates demand for team number 2. Then they are doing their, I don't know, agile magic, voodoo, and then finally they come to the conclusion, okay, let's start to work on this item. And then when this work item is finished, this means team number 1 is unblocked, right? So that's actually how the dependencies work. So what I did next is I just asked the teams, what are the teams you depend on most frequently? And I drew something like a dependency graph. And it looked like this. So here we only see 8 teams. You can imagine in a company with 600 people, this was a real mess, right? So you really had a lot of dependencies here. But the question is, why do we have these dependencies? Remember what they did when they started. They built cross-functional teams. They even built product teams, cross-functional product teams. And it's still a mess like this, where everybody's waiting for everyone. Well, why is this the case? Well, yes, they built product teams. Fair enough. But the thing is, One team is working on one product, yes, but multiple teams are working on the same product. And, surprise, surprise, when multiple teams are working on the same product, you run into dependencies, right? The other thing is, the products were not completely independent. I'm pretty sure you know this, right? When you change something in this product or service, this means you need to change something over there, and you need to change something over there, right? So you have dependencies between the products as well. And I personally have never ever seen an organization with more than 20 people in knowledge work without dependencies. And here we're talking about 600 people. So, I mean, it's just clear that we are running into these dependencies. And whenever I see a picture like this, there pops up an image in my mind. An image of a keyboard. Let's imagine our company is a keyboard, and we are in the writing business. So what we do is we are writing stuff for our customers, and then customers are happy, okay? So let's set up our company. Here we have team 1, 2, 3, 4. Team 1 is responsible for 1, 2, 3. Team 2 for QWER. Team 3, ASDF, and so on and so on. And now there comes the customer, and he wants us to write a love letter. So we need to think how we can actually handle this situation, right? We're talking about 4 teams here. If you are in a company with 600 people, your keyboard looks like this. For each and every freaking key on your keyboard, you have a team responsible, like pressing this keyboard, right? And now, let's assume we optimize all these teams. We make them agile or whatever the greatest, newest thing to do is. And let's assume it's working. We have the best S team on this planet. We have the best F team. Yeah, we have the best A team. When the A team starts to press the A button, smoke is coming out of the keyboard. They're just like awesome, right? How much faster can we deliver our love letter? The answer is 0, right? And yeah, that's the problem actually. So the point is that's not really new. So even there's a gentleman called Russell Eckhoff, already in the late 80s, he said that the performance of the system is not the sum of its parts. It's the product of its interactions. The product of its interactions. So if we somehow rephrase this and bring it into a company context, we could say organizational performance is not about having many high-performing teams. If we want to have organizational performance, what we need to do is we need to establish agile interactions between the teams. So we need to make the interactions agile. So what does this mean? This company was like, cross-functional teams are the holy grail. We need to tear down the functional silos, right? And build cross-functional teams. That's what they did. They teared down the functional silos and they built cross-functional silos. So the point is not so much how you structure your team. It's way more important that you're targeting the walls between the teams. Yeah? And targeting the walls between the teams, we cannot tear down all the walls. But what we can do is we can drill interaction holes between these walls. And that's actually yeah, what we did in this organization. So one of the main causes why the time to market was going up, although they were like agile like hell, is that there were no agile interactions going on between the teams. In the book, you will find some more causes, but I think this is yeah, probably the most important cause, especially for your community, I can imagine. So what did we do actually to yeah, solve this situation? Well, we introduced flight levels thinking. So there's another book that I wrote together with my co-author, Sigi Kaltenegger, called Flight Levels. And I would like to explain flight levels to you in a nutshell now. What is flight levels? For me, flight levels is a lightweight and a very cost-effective approach which helps you to create your own optimal work environment. 3 topics are in the main focus. Topic number 1 is you can build cross-team delivery capabilities. you can connect strategy to operation as number 2. And number 3, you can establish organization-wide collaboration. So these are the 3 topics that are like in the focus of flight levels. The thing is, flight levels does not work like a blueprint approach. This means there is not the recipe and you strictly have to follow the recipe, and if you don't follow the recipe, flight levels police will put you into jail. This is not the thing. So what we want to do is, flight levels helps you to figure out where in your organization you need to do what in order to achieve the things that you want to achieve. Yeah, and that's not a blueprint approach. And what are companies doing when they are applying flight levels? They're establishing 5 activities on 3 levels. What are these 5 activities? Activity number 1 is that organizations are defining and measuring their outcomes. Flight levels is goal-oriented. Doing flight levels for the sake of doing flight levels is quite unsexy. We want to achieve something with it, right? So the first question is, what do we want to achieve? Do we have a common understanding about this? Now let's set up a feedback loop in terms of a measurement which tells us, are we getting closer to what we want to achieve or not? Activity number 2 is companies visualize the situation. It's not so smart to fly blind. If we want to make improvement, it makes sense that we actually see how the current situation is, and when we see our current situation, it's much easier to understand what's going on, and then we can perform the improvements. Activity number 3 is companies create focus. Creating focus means we are valuing finishing work more than starting work. And this makes sense because starting work costs money and finishing work brings money or creates value. And that's what we want to do, and that's the reason why we are creating focus on the started work. Number 4 is we establish agile interactions. This means we make sure that the right people talk about the right stuff at the right time. And we totally don't care about the org chart. The org chart doesn't matter, yeah? So we just make sure that the right people talk about the right stuff at the right time. And number 5 is improve. You are never ever done. Once you made an improvement, you see things that you haven't seen before. And then you iterate around these 5 activities again and again and again. So these are the 5 activities that companies are doing when they are using flight levels. What's the point with these activities? You don't do them isolated somewhere in the organization. The idea is that you apply these 5 activities on 3 different levels, and these are the flight levels. Yeah? Flight level is a term from aviation, and it basically describes how high an aircraft is flying. And you see different things depending on how high you fly, right? So it's not about better or worse, you see different things. If you're flying very low, you see people on the floor, on the street, walking around. And if you fly very high, you see a lot actually, so your vision is quite broad, but you don't see any details. And the same is true in organizations. We can fly very low, which is flight level 1. That's the operational level. That's the teams who are actually doing the operational work, right? The point is that we are applying these 5 activities now on flight level 1. Most of the time, actually almost ever, every time, an organization has more than only one team, right? So you would see multiple flight level 1 systems pop up in an organization. Most of the time, one team alone cannot deliver customer value. So multiple teams need to coordinate in order to deliver value to the customer. This means we need to fly a little bit higher. That's flight level 2. Flight level 2 makes sure that the right team is working on the right stuff at the right time. This is usually the world of your products, of your services, the stuff that makes somehow, that delights your customer. The thing is you're connecting the flight level 2 with the flight level 1 systems. And the good thing is, from the viewpoint of flight level 2, we don't care how the teams are actually performing the work, the operational work. So maybe you have agile teams and they are doing Scrum or Kanban, or maybe you just have teams that are working. That's also fine, right? We just make sure that the right team is working on the right stuff at the right time. Most of the time you have more than only one product, you have multiple products, so you would see multiple flight level 2 systems popping up in your organization. And again, when I say a system pops up, we are applying these 5 activities. We make the work visible, we create focus, we improve, and so on. Yeah? Sometimes we also have dependencies between the products. This means we can introduce hierarchies. So we can add another flight level 2 system which connects other flight level 2 systems where we can like coordinate the work between products and services. And hopefully someone asks the question, where are we actually heading to? And that's the answer is on flight level 3. That's the strategic level. In the strategic level, you want to align the work in the company to the strategy, connect it with your flight level 2 and flight level 1 systems, and make strategy happen. That's the idea behind the flight level 3. So these are the 3 flight levels. The point is, this is not your organizational chart. It looks like it, an org chart, right? But it's totally not an org chart. We are not interested in the org chart. We are interested in how work is actually flowing through the organization. And the point is, it's quite tricky to identify your flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems, because usually you always fall back to the idea of building your org chart or so. And that's why we have a flight level systems architecture workshop, which might be interested for you as a community. And yeah, if you're interested in this, yeah, there is a huge discount where you can take this workshop if you like. So it's about identifying your flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems, how they are connected, and how work is flowing through the organization. That's the point for a flight level systems architecture. Let's get back to our case. Remember, we had dependencies. Give me 1 minute. I want to finish, okay? We want to, what did I want to say?
I want to say you might want to update your link.
Thank you. Okay. Let's get back to our use case. Okay, what I was telling or explaining before. So we had these problems with the dependencies. Yeah. So what did we actually do to overcome this? Well, it was actually quite easy. We started to build flight level 2 systems to address this problem. So what we did is we identified what team is working on what product, and now these teams were building a flight level 2 system actually. So we moved from the team boards to like product boards, service boards, platform boards, where multiple teams coordinated, right? And that's what we did for all the products and services in the organization. So the point is, do not optimize your organizational structure. Optimize value delivery. And the key is the flight level 2 to this, because the flight level 2 also connects the strategy to the operation. Yeah? All right, so the point is, an organization is full of islands. What we want to do is we want to connect these islands. Flight levels can help you to connect the islands in your organization by building a flight level systems architecture, and then you can establish enterprise flow. And that's everything I wanted to say. Thank you. Are there questions?
There she is. Thank you so much for that beautiful presentation, Klaus. I'm sure we have some input.
Yeah, I also like to thank you. That was a really interesting presentation. However, I wonder, where do you see the chief differences between flight levels and other sort of scaled agile approaches like SAFe or Scrum of Scrum?
Flight levels doesn't know how each and every organization on this planet works best. Flight level starts with the current situation of the organization. And you decide, based on patterns that we've seen out there, how you want to change your way of working. So flight levels doesn't say you have to do sprints. Flight level doesn't say you have to set up an agile release train or something like this. Flight levels is more like a tool which helps you, which you apply to your state. When you apply it to your state, you currently, you certainly see what the real problems are. And then you somehow prioritize the problems and solve them bit by bit. So it's not the blueprint solution. You are allowed to think. That's the most important thing.
Good answer. Thank you.
Yeah, you're always allowed to think, but when you are like in this method and framework world, it's quite hard to think. That's the problem.
Really insightful. Triggered me a bit that it's really what I also observe in large organizations. So really helpful. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Triggered me a bit on basically you're describing a dynamic system in which the instability is the dependency management and the complexity, more or less. I'm wondering how you tackle the arrows between the flight levels, for one, and secondly, how you tackle the really pragmatic approach towards meeting requests, full agendas, and getting the right people at the right time in the right room, so to speak.
Yeah. So flight levels is not only about dependencies. So as I said, I picked one item out of the book, and the blue book is very small compared to the yellow book. So there's way more than dependencies. It's just like the topic I picked, okay? How to find the right people to talk about the right stuff. I would like to talk a little bit about this. That's really, I think, the most challenging approach. And I think that's one of the USPs when it comes to flight levels. That's when you build the flight level systems architecture. So in the first step, we completely ignore the people, although the people are the most important part of it, right? But we ignore it. We are just like, okay, there's the customer, and how do we generate value to the customer? This means we start by identifying the flight level 2 systems when we build the flight level systems architecture. And then we, in the next step, we are like, okay, whom do we need to participate here? And then we map the people to the flight level 2 systems. And we don't change the org chart. We don't care if, I don't know, person A comes from team X in department Y and person B comes from somewhere completely else. We just identify, by going through the process of identifying the flight level 2 systems, whom we need. And that's important to ignore the org chart first. It's a process to do it. That's the building of the flight level systems architecture. Does this somehow answer the question?
Yes, it does, but really pragmatic. Getting those people together in a room, discussing at that point in time where it's important, that's prioritizing. And stating you have to come, free up your agenda, be there. Is that the approach, basically?
Multiple things. So we identify, when we build the flight level systems architecture, we also identify the interactions that we actually need. Sometimes we need prioritization, then we set up some kind of prioritization. Sometimes we need a short and quick check-in, then we probably set up something like a stand-up meeting. But that's also depending on what we actually need. And the problem we always run into when we are on flight level 2, for instance, a flight level 2 system is sometimes coordinating the work of 100 or 200 or 300 people. And now let's have a meeting with 200 people. That's not what we are doing, right? We work with delegates. So for instance, if we think stand-up meetings are valuable, we set up a stand-up meeting where the teams send delegates from the flight level 1 to the flight level 2. And we are having a stand-up meeting, or retrospective, or whatever meeting we need, on flight level 2, and with the result, they are going back to the team and they are having the stand-up meeting there. And that's how we ensure that work is flowing across the flight levels. And you do the same for the flight level 2 with the flight level 3. So you work with delegates because you don't want to have meeting with 200 people, of course. Yeah?
Thank you. I would like to ask you, is that somehow similar or compatible with a framework like SAFE, which expects more levels of organization?
It's actually compatible with SAFE, it's compatible with LESS, with OKR, with Scrum of Scrum, with Nexus, you name it, with Waterfall, because it's a different thing. So with flight level, you can improve whatever you're doing right now. So we see so many companies that have like derailed safe trains going around in their company, that they now start to apply flight levels so that they can fix their safe implementation. We have so many companies who are doing OKR, and they bring the OKRs to action with flight levels, for instance. So it's not an either or. It's more like, it's not water and fire, it's more like steak and potato. It goes very well together. Yeah?
Okay, thank you.
You can use flight levels to fix actually what you're doing right now, or improve. It's not always fixing.
Thank you for the talk. When I look at the visualization with the 3 levels, and I imagine some of our client organizations or companies, organizations that popped up in the intersection, I could see some of them going like, oh, so this must be democracy, because we can basically vote things up and like control everything from the bottom up, or sometimes also depending on culture, some people would see this as a control mechanism, like, oh, this is a way how I can, as the boss, tell everyone what to do and really micromanage everything. I was wondering if there's anything in the approach to prevent either hijacking of this, because we have the same problem with energy, with any kind of hierarchy, actually.
Yeah. So it's always a thin line, because we want to keep flight levels as agnostic as we can. And whenever we introduce guidance like hierarchy is good, hierarchy is bad, whatever, we are going into a certain direction, because I'm not this either-or guy. Hierarchies are in certain domains important, in other domains totally not important. So what we try to do is we come up with patterns. So we have patterns, what we've seen, that's just working out there. And you choose what makes sense or what doesn't make sense for you. So when you are building this flight level systems architecture, it makes sense that there's probably someone guiding you through the process, or maybe not guiding you through the process, but you need someone to reflect, is this really good, this decision that we are taking? Because you are taking the decision on your own. And that's the tricky part with flight levels. You're allowed to think, yeah. But this also means you have to think.
And you have given us a lot to think about. Wolfgang, you want the last word today? All right.
Which one?
No, it's not a question, it's more a remark. So it's no coincidence that Klaus is here. When I read his book 3 years ago or so, I immediately saw these boards, yeah, and maybe something is missing in Agile and in the world of enterprise design. Usually we design more on a strategic level. We design capabilities, tasks, so maybe we are most of the time on flight level 3. But if it never make it down to reality, and if our structures, capabilities, tasks, you mentioned products, so the Agile elements are not present on the ground floor, on the operational level, we are nowhere. Yeah? And that's the reason why our mission statement is not we help people design better enterprises, because design alone doesn't mean much. We help people create better enterprises. And the reason why I invited you, and thank you for this amazing talk, for me this was really a big one, is we have the idea also to cooperate with these people, and maybe we'll come up someday with what we call bridges. Yeah, why not bridge Agile, which is more broad, so it's a horizontal concept. I see Agile as the horizontal, and for me this is a way to add verticality to this. So yeah, just a remark.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. And thank you, Klaus, once again for sharing your thoughts. Give him a big round of applause.
Thank you.